Hi everyone, this is Robin Joy, the Happy Food Chef, and this is our Valentine's Day special recipe for, this is my energy bar. It's a basic energy bar and it's a raw dessert. So it doesn't have to be cooked, we're gonna make it. And right now, the first thing I'm gonna do, because sometimes you can't get chia seeds that are already ground, and I like to use them ground up because it makes it more digestible. So I'm going to, and if you don't have a food mill, you can use your coffee grinder and it just grinds them up, no problem. So we're just gonna grind up a bunch and get those ready and what the chia does, it's gonna help gel everything and keep it together. In this recipe for our chocolate health bar, I use Artisana, and it's a raw coconut butter. And so the thing is with this brand, in most coconut butters, a lot of times in the jar, they get hard. Sometimes you'll see it where it's softer on top and harder at the bottom, whatever. For this particular recipe, and we will post the recipe, you have to use, it takes the whole jar. I believe it's 16 ounces. And so what I do is, in my food processor, I take the whole jar. Sometimes it's really hard. I took a big knife and I dug it out. And in my food processor, I'm going to just put it on and it's just going to soften it up and make it almost like a puree. So here we go. I want to just talk about what I'm doing here. I boiled water and I poured them over 10 dates for this recipe. And we're making my healthy bar, energy bar. And so now that they're soaked, I just take the pits out. I personally like Majul dates. Dates are amazing. They're one of the best to me, it is the best sweetener that you can use, the healthiest sweetener. From what I've read, and I don't remember what all the scientific stuff is, but they metabolize differently than all of the sugars, from what I've heard. So whatever, I love them. They're my sweet of choice. I do lots with them. And even just for a quick snack, if nothing else, I take the pit out and I fill it with almond butter and I pop it in my mouth and it's just divine. So they're nice and soft and ready to go. And then these are gonna go back in the food processor and I'm gonna make a puree. So I save, here's the thing. This was boiled, beautiful spring water. I'm gonna save this water because you can drink it, and I'm gonna use some of this as a water for liquid in my recipe or whatever. So the ingredients in here are almond butter. We're gonna post the recipe. So there's almond butter. Today we used hazelnuts and pecans and some almond flour. But here's the thing, whatever nuts you wanna use. The only thing I will say is I would not use cashews and peanuts. They're not the best nuts to use for this, for many reasons, and we'll get into that. We'll do a whole nut thing later. And then what I did was, so I posted a couple of other videos. One was that I took the almond butter, put it in the food processor, because it's hard in the jar. So we pureed that, and then I added the cocoa powder to that, right in the Cuisinart, so it really folds in beautifully. So right now here in my bowl, I have the almond butter with the cacao, and I also have 3 tablespoons, we'll post the recipe. And if you want it sweeter, you can make it sweeter. Sometimes I mix date and honey. Today we're just doing date, but I may, depending on what I want this to taste like, use a little bit of raw honey as well. So we're gonna mix this really well. And at some point, I generally get my hands in here just because I like it to get everything well mixed. And there's chia that's gonna go in here now. We have our chia seed. Get this mixed in really well. And then if we need a little bit of moisture, which we will, I think we're gonna add a little bit of, and this is great, I love black cherry juice, unsweetened, but it's sweet as it is. So for my moisture, because I want it a bit more moist, we're gonna mix this up really well. Get everything blended together. I'm gonna add a little more because it's gonna harden. We're gonna be putting this in the refrigerator. And we're also gonna put in a little bit of Himalayan sea salt. And sometimes, so it's really a balance of your sweet. And then also we're gonna put in some vanilla. Here's my vanilla, it is right here. Let's see, we have our recipe right here. Generally, I don't cook with recipes, but for you guys, we will. And it's asking for a tablespoon. Well, I can't read that, but it's good enough. I'll figure it out. And we're gonna do a couple of those. So we have our, and I use a beautiful organic, but I used to actually make a homemade vanilla. I would take a vanilla bean, an organic vanilla bean, with a really good alcohol, and then you just put it in a jar, the alcohol with the vanilla bean. Somewhere in my archive, I do have a recipe for it, and you just let it sit for God knows how long, a month, whatever, and you have vanilla extract. So, but we don't, and I'm not doing that these days right at the moment, but this is what it's gonna look like here. And it's starting to look like a dough. And this is gonna be a raw dessert. Now, I do a whole series of dessert classes, and I can turn this into almost a brownie if I wanted to by adding, believe it or not, eggs and a little bit of baking soda and baking powder, and I could make this into a brownie mix. So, you know, it's really easy to, once you get a feel for this, to go from raw desserts to a cooked dessert, depending on, and just by altering a few ingredients, and maybe a little bit of you know, flour, a grain flour. But this I wanted to be really, this is a raw dessert. It's as clean as you're gonna get for a dessert. And then all you have to do is refrigerate it, and you're done. You've got a great, healthy bar. I sometimes also put ground flax. So here's the thing on the seeds. Flaxseed and chia seed, they're great, but if anybody has problems with digestion, these can go right through you. So I always use ground chia and flax seeds in my recipes, and then I have no problem. The chia, of course, and the flax, they're also gluten, you know, they have this, they hold things together. They become glutinous. As most of you know, you can have chia pudding, and flax. You know, these are really good ingredients to use, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, so I think we're ready to, at this point, I need to taste this and see, the main thing is balancing the salt and the sugar. These are good. Now, I'm making these for some friends, so I know that they want more sweet in here. So I'm just gonna have more date, and you could add honey. Sometimes the date doesn't sweeten as much as the honey does. That's why I often mix both. And some people just, and the other sweetener you can use too is maple syrup. Gives it an amazing flavor. I love maple syrup. And there are some things that I only will use maple syrup because I really want that flavor. So it's just, again, this all comes down to, you have to taste, and you have to taste as you go, and you figure out what really is the taste that you want to have. A lot of times too, two things to remember. The sweetening, because we're using dates and we're using honey, you've got to sometimes over sweeten it a little bit if people really like it sweet, because as it sets and over time, it will not be as sweet. And the same holds true for the salt. So until you start to work with this and get used to it, then you'll figure out how you need to adjust the recipe. That's the thing about recipes, is they give you a general idea, but the thing is, we're all, you know, if you're doing something, you may have a date that's this big and you may have one that's this big. So when it talks about the measurements, you can't strictly go by that because we don't know what they use in the original recipe. So that's why you have to taste. in a raw dessert, you really have to taste it as you go because it's not going to get cooked. So you can taste it. Oh, that's good. That's good. Just want to let you know on a video that I did a few minutes ago where we're making my healthy energy bars, that I kept saying in one of the videos almond butter, but I didn't mean almond butter. The ingredient I was referring to was this coconut butter. And we're here to finish up our health bar. So I'm gonna do a few things on the top. We made 2 different recipes. One has just the dates, the pureed dates for sweetening, and we didn't want ours, because we do a taste test, we didn't want ours any sweeter than it was. But we knew that the other half of the batch is going to someone else who has a real sweet tooth. So we put honey in it for that. So now what we're gonna do is, now you can do all different things here. You can put sprinkled nuts on top if you want extra nut. What we're gonna do, because we totally forgot to put one of the ingredients in, but I still want it in there, was coconut. And you'll have the full recipe. But what we're gonna do is on half of it, we're gonna put just coconut and sprinkle that in and pat it down a little bit so it gets in there. And then we'll do that on half here because I'm not a huge coconut fan. I love coconut, but I like it raw, not so much dried, and I like it right out of the shell of the meat to eat it right after I have had the coconut juice from the real coconut. There's a lot of information about coconut and health and coconut oil. I'd rather not go into the health stuff at this point because this is a dessert. This isn't something that you're gonna eat every single day, or you might, but we'll cover the health aspects later. Now, the other thing that I'm going to add is also hemp seeds. So I'm big on hemp seeds. That gives me, I am predominantly vegetarian and predominantly raw. So hemp seeds are a staple in my diet for protein. They're just awesome. So I'm gonna put some, this is my side here, and I'm gonna put some on this side as well with the coconut. And then, for those who put the coconut inside the dough part of it, because this would actually look like the dark chocolate, and then for garnish, because it is Valentine's Day, and you have a choice, anything red, you can put embedded in it. What I'm gonna do, I did try to find goji berries, because being that this is an energy bar as well, I would have loved to, but we just didn't find really good goji berries at the store, or organic ones. So I decided that what we're gonna do is put raspberries for the touch of red for the holiday. And these are gonna be bars, so I'll just show you. I know that my line's gonna go down here when I cut them. And so I'm gonna put a few berries here, and then these will go in the refrigerator. Or if I was gonna freeze this and then bring it out and defrost them, I would wait until you serve it and just put the fresh berry right on top. Don't freeze it with the berry on it. So that's our healthy dessert, our health bar. And there's many, many ways to make this. One of the classes that we're gonna do is where we put out all kinds of ingredients, and this usually I do in person, and we can actually build out a raw dessert going from blonde all the way to chocolate. So, but this would be your, Valentine's Day, and you can shape them. You can even take cookie cutters. If you do it flatter, chill it, and not freeze it, just chill it, and then put your cookie cutter in. If you have a heart cookie cutter, you can cut them out and then put it in the refrigerator. Put whatever you want that's red on top. If you want to put the little heart, whatever you want, you can stick on top. So that's it, and hope you enjoy them.